Hello, everybody. Welcome to Slice of Piefer. I'm Dr. Piefer. I am here and blessed to have GeGe with us. Thank you so much for being here. Just an amazing person. We got to meet in Las Vegas. So blessed to have you here. This is really for Slice of Piefer. We're going international. So huge deal. Challenge for me, though, is everybody's supposed to get a pie, and I could not find a way to get a pie delivered to you in Romania. So you'll have to help me figure that out. All right. But GeGe, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm fantastic. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that.
It is my pleasure. So we met in Vegas back just a little bit over a month ago now, right? So, and you were in Vegas, but then you were traveling all around the world, but now back home in Romania. So what brings you to Las Vegas and into the US?
So when we went to Vegas, we went to film David Meltzer TV show called Office Hours. And even if I work with them and I'm remote, I think every occasion that we can have like to be together with the team, it's a great opportunity. So I decided like, hey, I've been doing a lot. I've never done the TV show. Even it's season 10, I think, something like that. And I was like, I really want to do also this. So I decided to travel for that. And it's been an incredible experience. I'm still like so lucky that I get to do all these things.
That is so cool.
I try to remind myself to be grateful because sometimes we just take it for granted.
Right. I think I agree. Being grateful is awesome. I mean, you're here. It's 4:43 p.m. here in the Woodlands, north of Houston. It is what, 12:40 something a.m. for you?
Yeah.
Nice. But these are your normal hours. A night owl working with everybody over here.
And also, it's some people usually wake up early to have that quiet time. For me, it's like I have the quiet time now, and I've always been like this. And this is how life works, I think. It just set up for me to be able to, wake up a bit later, do what I have to do until the schedule kicks in. And people are like, how did this happen? And I always say I'm lucky, like I'm blessed, and God is working for me. I don't know how to explain this, but that's the best way.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I mean, he's working for all of us, but to be able to recognize that and have that humility and gratitude is so important, right? That's such an important thing as we move forward. I mean, and the cool thing for me, like with your life, right? To be humble doesn't actually mean you have to be passive, right? So you're still going after your dreams. You're still doing the things that you want to do, which is super cool because it keeps you. I mean, you're traveling all over the world, and you can't be but maybe 17 years old, right?
No, I'm not 17. I think.
I'm giving you a hard time, GeGe.
I'm thinking about because this is something that I like. I have people like I'm 35 and I have no issue saying that. A lot of people are like, oh my God, when we were younger. And I'm like, I began to have a brain when I was 30. And I'm like, I love this. And I'm not, people are like, oh, I wish I could go back. I'm like, no, I've learned. I'm grateful for that time. I learned from that time. And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I love this time. So, yeah, I don't have that, I don't know how people like reminiscence of the past and regrets and stuff like that. I'm like,
right.
I think the pieces set up perfectly for me.
Very cool. Very cool. What kind of plans, what do you have coming up in 2026? What does this year look like for you?
So this year is the only time, and I even had this conversation with someone, that I don't have a specific goal. So the way I approach everything in the past is like, I want to get here and then get here and get here. And this year is like, I'm going to let things unravel and I'll focus on just getting better every single day.
Right.
Instead of saying, oh, I want to get there and I'm going to do everything to get there. It's like, no, let's see if I focus on every day. So I think this comes with maturity, how better I can be. And I think, and also in the last, it's almost 2 weeks in 2026, I already see that hinge of progress in just 2 weeks. And I was like, so I was wasting time of focusing on a goal instead of focusing on. And this is even with you and all of the people that I had to meet, they tell me the same thing. It's the everyday practice.
Right.
And that's how you get that. So I'm at this stage now, and I'm trying to ground myself into that like everyday practice.
Right. So you get to act and then you get to react, right? You get to keep trying to see how to get better. And that's super, I mean, that's really awesome because one thing that I see that I've noticed is you can be confident in the things that you have, but you can still always be hungry to get better, right? You can always improve. Even if you know, are some kind of crazy superstar, you can knock the ball out of the park and you can still look and say, how could I be a little bit better? How could I get a little bit better here or a little bit better there? And I think those pieces and that insight is what will drive people to get and drive you to become enormously successful from all the way across the world.
Yeah. And also I think because you use the word success, and one thing that I've learned, and again, it's so interesting because I'm surrounded by people crazy successful like you. And it's like success is defined by you inside of you.
Yeah.
And I think people, and it took me a long time because, I get to travel and meet extraordinary people and stuff like that. And I see some people that we call them successful, but they're empty inside. And there is this famous, forgot the name of the book, but there is this famous passage, and it's like, so they go into this guy's house. He was a billionaire and stuff like that. They were sitting at the porch, and and he's like, he said, how do you feel about the fact that I make in 1 hour how much you make in all of your selling of the books?
Sure.
And he looks at him and he says, you know what? I have something that you'll never have. He looks at him and is like, what's that? The knowledge that I have enough.
Yep.
And I was like, and yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's not being passive, but it's like sometimes you have to stop, breathe, and enjoy what you have.
Right.
And build on that.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time, right? There was a point in your life where what you have today is what you exactly wanted, and there's going to be a point in your life when you look back and you say, and you wish that you were back where you are today, right? When your health is failing, when life is more difficult, when the challenges are stacking up, or when it's, when you're 80 years old and you look back at being 35 and you'd give anything to be where you are today. And it's hard sometimes for people to live in the present, to live in the moment that they're in, and to, like you said, realize that you have enough. Right? Getting better is important, but it's the journey, right? It's the successful people love my PA tells me all the time, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze, right? Is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? And I'm like, the juice is going to be great, but it's if you don't love the squeeze, if you don't love the process, if you don't live in that process and understand that, whatever, you go on a podcast and say something crazy, or you do, go work out and have a bad workout, right? Just because those things happen doesn't mean that you're not enough, that you don't have enough, and that you're not successful, right? And so I think that piece is it's very cool for you sitting where you're at and doing the things that you're doing, to see you sort of growing in that way, but also to see that growth and building doesn't necessarily mean that something is empty, that something's missing, right? And I think that's awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and I also believe that's a different type of fuel. When the game you're playing, and I believe the game of life is fulfillment, everything changes. Like, people look at different people, and you look at someone and you're like, I want to be them. But you have no idea what. You think maybe it's their status, but there is actually an energy, that's that fulfillment that comes out of what they do.
Right.
There is this famous quote from Michael Jordan. Is like, when I went on the field, I never played for me, I played for them. He was referring to that kid that he was. And everybody that has that is like living a life of service.
Right. Yep. And that service is so important, right? Because I've talked about this a lot, but willing the good of the other, right? That's the definition of love. Is actively trying to do the best for the people that are around you. And when you love those people that way, you're going to also ultimately love yourself, right? You're going to will your own good, right? You're going to end up, by serving others, you're going to end up serving yourself, and you're going to end up, how many times do you hear people who volunteer their time, or they give something and they come back and they say, I got way more out of this than the folks that I volunteered for, right? That happens all the time. It happens to me all the time. So I think that that's that level of service, not only serving others, but helping to serve yourself as you move forward. Well, I mean, it's going to be really, really cool as you keep seeing life continue to evolve. Right. And I like the idea of 2026 being an action and reaction, right? I'm not going to, just like you said, I don't necessarily have a concrete goal that I want to see, but except that my main goal is I want to get better every day, right? Because I mean, what more could you ask for than that? Think about where you're going to be in January 2027 if you're better every day than you were the day before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's and that goes in all aspects of life. And there's one thing that I believe, it's in my opinion and based on my experience, is I say I have an anchor of love, which is my family, my friends, and that allows me to do all of this.
Right.
Taking the risk, of course. Now I'm in a good position, but when I took the risk, I remember the conversation I was having even with my parents, and they were encouraging me. Now I look back and I even have conversation with them, and they're like, they only ask me one thing: if this doesn't work, would you be mentally like, okay, then, because that's it. Like, win or lose, you have to try, and then go for it,
right?
And then see what you learn and things like that. And I believe that foundation is so important.
Right. I agree with you, and then I think that idea, like that the understanding that there's going to be setbacks, that there are going to be failures in other people's eyes. But if you look at those failures as just learning opportunities and an opportunity to get better, you might look at today and say, man, how did I get better today than yesterday? And I could have done these 5 different things better, and you'll do those 5 things better tomorrow and you'll get better. And in somebody's eyes, that's a failure, but in somebody else's eyes, that's just growing, right? It's just getting stronger. And all you do by continuing to move forward and staying positive and keeping in that mindset is you just keep moving forward and you keep growing. And that's what's ultimately going to help people all around you, whether it's your friends, your family, everybody. Right. And I think that's super, super cool. So one of the things we talk about all the time is leadership, right? So talking about what makes a good leader, what separates the best leaders from just a good leader. What do you think are your keys, if you had advice for leaders out there as you kind of continue to move forward in your leadership journey? But what are your big takeaways for leadership characteristics?
So there's one leader that's internationally recognized by anyone, and that is Nelson Mandela. And I read his book, and I don't know, it's A Long Walk to Freedom, if everybody wants to check it out. And he wasn't a great person in the beginning, let's put it like that. Like, he did a lot of stuff. He didn't get in that position by mistake. Like, he was against the regime, which wasn't great. And it's very interesting when he says this, and this is, I'll make a connection to this, and I get goosebumps. It's when he got out of the jail and they asked him, like, why aren't you going to imprison these people? Why aren't you doing anything? And he says this: the moment when the oppressor oppressed other people, they lose a part of their humanity. The moment the oppressed becomes the oppressor, they lose their humanity.
That's true. Very true.
And also one thing, so my grandfather, before I was born, I'm from Romania, so Romania was a communist country. So they put my grandfather in jail. And when he got out, my dad asked him, like, we need to go after them and stuff like that. And my grandfather still said to him the same thing, like, we have to forgive them.
That is.
So I had that example. And I think, well, there are this conversation of, be a leader like this or be a leader like that. I think being a leader goes back to service.
Right.
And there is also a famous quote from Plato or Socrates, which says, when they were writing in the Republic, when they were inventing the democratic system that we know now, Socrates says, you should choose a leader who never want to lead. Right. And there's a whole thing. And if you look now at elections, those are people who want to be in that position. So is this, I think, is a very, how to say, convoluted concept that applies to different situation, to different situation. Like, if you ask me, it's like, hey, would you want to work for a day with Elon Musk? I would say yes, 100%.
Sure.
And that's also a very different environment, but I think you can learn a lot. So I believe with the leadership, it depends on the context and what do you need in that moment.
Sure, absolutely. And I think
So,
that the what I heard from you that was really that I think is amazing, especially as you talked about your grandfather, right? If he comes out and he starts going after revenge and going after the people who imprisoned him, really what he's going to do is ultimately just imprison himself, right? You're going to be caught up in that hatred. You're going to be locked up in fear. You're going to be locked up in anger, and you're never going to be able to move on because all you're going to do is live in that place where you were forever. And so you find that with people whether it's anger, whether it's hate, whether it's dishonesty, all of them imprison you, and you've got to get yourself free from those things. And in his case, in Nelson Mandela's case, those were actual prison. But it's in that, what a lesson to be able to take home from those leaders. That's really awesome.
I'll give another example, which I'm very fortunate. And I work with David Meltzer, which I've been working with him for I think 3 years now. And that's how we also met and stuff like that. And one thing, and I look at him and I'm like, I have no idea how he does it. He lets us shine. He makes sure that we are like put in front and stuff like that, then help us in whatever we want to do. And I've been before working with him, I've been working in a horrible environment. And I'm like, again, if you ask me, like that's one of the leaders that I'm working with every single day that I'm running from. And he has some hidden talents. I don't know how to call them, but it's something that when I ask him, like, how do you do this? And sometimes I'll ask, like, how can you trust me so much and stuff like that, which that's a great leader, but I think there is a magic, there's something behind it. And also years of experience, but also that environment changed me so much. So also that matters.
That's great. And so tell everybody what you do with David, just so that, because I know because we met in Las Vegas, but for everybody who's watching, the literally millions and millions of people that I'm sure are watching, what do you do for David Meltzer?
So we have group, a private networking group. I manage that group. We do Q&A sessions every single Monday where you have that time, one-on-one time with David, and you ask a question, you can ask for introductions. We have a huge network of people that want to help each other or know people that can help each other. So it's all, our whole thing is make a lot of money, help out the people, and have a lot of fun. And then we do digital shows where people can come and promote their business. It's live and then it turns into a podcast. So we do IG Live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We do office hours Wednesday and Thursday. And then we do 2 trainings, one Wednesday training and Friday training. And I produce all of the online shows with the help of Nick and Mike and basically the whole team. And then I do the onboarding calls, like the community management for the community. And I also go to in-person events where it's like all hands on deck.
Sure.
Where I would say when I went to my first in-person event was trial by fire or baptism by fire.
Right.
You met me now, and I was like, when we went in Vegas last year, I think last year, we went into the Palazzo, and Dave asked me to sit like the food court and stuff like that, and I was so confused. And he was like, and he was laughing, and I'm like, I'll never let you guide me again. And now I know, like, hey, where is this? I'm going to come one day before, check this. But it's that learning experience. Like, hey, I'm going to put you in the position. Okay, people say, right. Okay, you failed, but you can't learn if you can't fail. And also we do TV shows, the one that you are on. I think it's going to come out in a couple of months. It's called Office Hours, where we show case entrepreneurs and amazing people that like you, Dr. Jason. And then we do VIP dinners where we have a panel that can speak for 20 minutes, and then people can get to ask a question. And we have different people from different industries. The whole thing is to create the room of people who want to network, and nobody comes with an attitude like I'm better than everybody else. And,
right.
Things like that. And I've seen from saving people's lives to changing people's lives. And it's been an extraordinary journey. And also we do podcast and masterminds and speaking engagements as you went to Aspire. So yeah, I managed the online TV production of the shows.
That is awesome. So he keeps you active and running all the time, right?
Yeah. And then I look at his calendar and I'm like, I can't complain.
Very nice. Yeah, we had a blast in Fort Lauderdale. We were there just yesterday for the Aspire tour. I got to be on the big stage, which was really cool. I got to do speak on a panel with David and with 4 other speakers, and then I was on the panel just like you described at the event that night. So at the dinner, I got to be on the panel too. So that was really cool, answering some questions about AI and the future and leadership and a bunch of things as we keep moving forward, which is interesting because in those more business settings as a surgeon, it gives the people a little bit of a different perspective. They get to see things a little bit through the eyes of medicine and through the eyes of a surgeon, which is just a different perspective. And anytime you can get a different perspective, it can always be helpful. So very, very cool. Well, I mean, you've got tons of great leaders that are helping to guide you, and you've got your set goal to get better every day. So, which I think is awesome. If you had advice for folks who were kind of in your situation, right? I think working internationally, it can't be an easy place to find, maybe it is easy, but how do you find an opportunity like this if you're not here, right? I mean, there's plenty of people here in the U.S. who would love to have a job that you just described, where you're coordinating all of essentially you're helping to coordinate all of the technical aspects of almost everything of this major enterprise, right? That's running and clicking on all cylinders all the time. So how did you get there? That's I think that's going to be a cool story.
Yeah. So again, I think luck, or like if you're like, so I used to live in London. I did an MBA. I told my parents, again, I'm going to do an MBA and work for a big company in England. Everybody was like, yeah, sure. That happened. I finished my MBA and I worked for the third largest market research company in the world. The internship there, I was working there, and I was also trying to find, like, let's see if I stayed here or find another opportunity. And at the end of 2019, my brother's like, hey, let's go skiing, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to come to Romania for a while. I had another job offer. I'm like, hey, can you please let me know to decide what I want to do? Because I wasn't sure yet. I come home, go skiing. I think we got COVID when it came back, but it wasn't still official. I spent Christmas, because they're like, hey, spend Christmas and New Year's Eve because you didn't come home in a long time. I'm like, okay. And then COVID starts to happen. And it wasn't that bad yet, but you start hearing. And I remember I was with my family around the table, and my parents were like, so what will you do now? Like, I had to decide, do I stay in Romania or go back to London? Of course, my nightmare was to come back to Romania, into my old, into my old room in my parents' house after living in London, and, like all of that. And I was like, I'm not sure yet. And I believe for now, I'll stay in Romania for a couple of months.
Sure.
The moment that happened in my mind, it was like, I'm a failure, like all of that.
Sure.
Even if my parents were like, hey, you did great, you achieved all, it didn't matter. For me, it was the biggest setback that I could ever have. And then what happened is everybody moved online. Like Tom, Bill, you, I didn't know David's, Alex, and like a few people that, because I used to listen to their podcasts and stuff like that, which this is one thing that I tell people is like, listen to those people 24/7. They look at me like, I'm like, trust me, I know what I'm saying. There were a few things here. So I go live with Tom Bailey on his show, and ask him a question. And he posted the video on his Instagram. I'm like, okay, I think I have something here in my mind. Then I saw David. I'm like, who is this guy? I have no idea. I went on David's Instagram. And then in my state, I was texting him, and he was answering my messages.
Wow.
Me. Yes, that's what, yeah. I still have those. And then I'm like, he's like, oh, I'm starting a network coaching group or something like that. And I said, do you want to join? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I never joined anything like this in my life. I was listening to them, but I've never done that. And I was like, this sounds interesting. Okay. Tom started the NFT thing. I went into blockchain, learn about that. Like it was, from that to this, I was in, all you had to do was to be in your house. So I was just going in deep. And then also I told my mom this. So I told her exactly this, and this all happened. I'm gonna meet Tom and Lisa at a dinner table. And I flew to LA. I texted David, he wasn't there because he travels all the time. I meet them at the dinner. Like that's what happened. And then I flew again to meet David. I'm like, hey, when you're gonna be? He's like, I'm gonna be at SoFi. Come. And I spent the whole day with David and the team. That was already in the group. And I'm like, hey, David, I would like to be your intern. He didn't say anything. He came to Web Summit in Lisbon. And he's like, hey, do you want a ticket on the conference? I'm like, yeah, sure. Gives me a ticket. I go again. Hey, Dave, look, I really want to be an intern for you. He didn't say anything. And then I ask again. I'm like, hey, Dave, can I call you? And it's like, okay, now you can be an intern for me. So I think he needed to shape me in a way. I have no idea. But I remember I asked, and then I was like, I want to work for this guy. And I never wanted to have this idea of and before doing this, I got a job because I wanted to have a job. And I was working from England, which is, let's say, culture similar to the US, very relaxed. Coming back to Romania, where people were screaming at you, it was horrible. And I was for 6 months, I was going to bed at 3 a.m. and wake up at 7 a.m. I would not recommend that for anybody.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. So I was join this. And I was learning as much as possible. And then it's oh, yeah, you can be an intern for me. Then I stayed an intern for a year or something like that. And then I said, hey, I want to join the company full time. How can we do that? So... yeah, but it's
and the rest is history.
I was dealt the shitty hand. I was looking at the card and what can I do with it? But again, I think there was a divine hand there that got me on this path.
Right. Well, a lot of persistence, right? A lot of persistence, a lot of dedication, right? You could have quit after the first time when you didn't get the response you wanted. You could have given up when life had, other plans, whether it was COVID or back to Romania, or you couldn't get travel, or you couldn't do the things that you were supposed to do, and you didn't, right? And so that is a huge lesson. And we live in a world where everybody gets everything so fast, right? We get our information so fast. We order food and it shows up here at your apartment or at your home, just like that, right? And the idea that, for some kids, the idea of doing I shouldn't say kids, but for some people, doing an internship or for a year to try to get experience, that's below me, right? That I wouldn't do that. And the reality is, right, maybe one of the best decisions that you've ever made in terms of career, in terms of your life moving forward, in terms of the choices that you made. And so I think that there's that living in the present that you talked about is so good, because it all of those opportunities, even when it was a challenge, even when it was difficult, you still were able to move forward in a way that built you up and allowed you to serve, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and also the thing with want something quick, everybody wants to grow on social media, and I work with someone who's massive, and I work with that. And I'm like, you can do, I know the hacks or whatever. And I'm like, when people come to me, because some people ask me for advice, and I was like, why do you want to do this? Well, I don't know. And when people don't know, or they do it for the numbers, they will quit.
Right.
It's one thing that, I learned from David, and I see his channel grow, and this is going to happen for you as well. It's 1, 2, 4, double it every year.
Right.
And 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 also he's still doing the shows every day, right? You're still doing this, even if you're a surgeon, that's, a doctor and a surgeon, that's it. It's that dedication. I just want to give something back.
Right.
So, and I don't think we get things fast. I think that's a lie. We just tell ourselves.
Right. And I think I also think that when you look on social media, you see people the people who you see all the time are the people who put in the 10 years, right? Or the 15 years or the 20 years. You get to see the last 6 months when they've got 1 million followers or when they've got whatever happening and their life is at the top. And I think that's hard because, there's nothing that you can do without working, right? I mean, there was a time for me as a medical student, 4 more years and then a resident, 5 more years after that, and then a fellow for another year. And you just keep working and you keep working and you keep trying to get better and keep tuning up your skills. But nobody really sees you, right? I mean, that there's something out there, but nobody sees you. And I think that part is getting lost a little bit for not really maybe for a whole generation, but maybe for all of us, because people see and they believe that everything they see online is like, this is it, right? This person's life is perfect. There they are on the beach. There's their beautiful, perfect family. There's everything perfect, right? I should have everything perfect. And the reality is you're only seeing like this little tiny piece. And if you really knew like the challenges and the hard things that people have gone through and the way that they felt on the inside, people don't put that stuff online, right? They don't, I mean, maybe a few people do, but not a lot. And so there's a lot of places for you to keep growing and to be. I just loved the idea of being in the present, right? I really loved your message of let's get better every day. Let's see an opportunity to improve, whatever that is.
Yeah, and I will have a recommendation for people in general when they think things happen fast. Start reading some biographies. Choose whoever you want,
right?
Because usually those are people who did something. That's why someone wrote something about them. Read those books, but read the books, not audio.
Right. Yep.
I do audio. I love reading. There's something about books and the smell and stuff like that. But read the book, and that's how you understand that to build something takes time and devotion and patience. Even if it's people are so against this, and also I don't understand. Looking at someone's pictures, like for me, I never understood this, and comparing your life with them.
Right.
Like, until you don't have a conversation with that person one-on-one,
right.
Finding about life, their happy moments, their struggles, their setbacks, because there was this experiment done, and I loved it. It's like everybody, so, it's a room full of people, and everybody will write their problem on a piece of paper and they put it in a jar. And everybody would pick up a piece of paper. And when they were reading other people's issues, nobody would choose those. They're like, oh my God, my life is much better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of power that for not good in that idea that you're alone, right? That idea that nobody else is going through what you're going through, or that you have it the worst of anybody. And that, I think, is a challenge for people to really look inside and be grateful for the things that you have. And when you serve other people, you'll find that like the more you give, the more you'll keep giving, and the more you'll keep giving. And ultimately, everybody says it's cliche, but the more you're going to get, the more you're going to get out of life once you start giving to other people. And that part, I think, is don't worry about comparing, right? Don't worry about comparing what somebody else is doing, right? And get over the fear and get over yourself a little bit, and just go forward. So I think that's awesome. I think that's really, really cool. When are you coming back? When are you here in the U.S. again?
I think April.
Really? Are you going back to Vegas? Or are you going to be in L.A.? Or are you hard to know?
No, I'll be April will be one trip, and then probably to somewhere in New York or something like that.
Gotcha.
There'll be definitely 2 trips to the U.S. this year.
Gotcha. And do you usually come for like a week or so, or a couple of days, or usually about a week?
Yeah, 2 weeks. I mean, I was thinking maybe between New York and Florida.
Nice.
Because we went to New York last year and during this time, so I can imagine it was freezing.
Yes.
Not in February, but I mean, I loved it. And one thing that I love, when I also used to live in London, I used to go to West End, which is the Broadway. So here, of course, I went to a Broadway show, and I love that. So yeah, and I'm thinking about when we have an event in New York, I was looking at this kind of course, there's a lot that's still adding. And probably, come for TV show and the mastermind combined, like Vegas and LA.
Cool. That'll be awesome. Well, you got to tell me, make sure you give me your dates that you're here. I can try to get you a pie to Romania. That I'm going to work on it and see what I can get. Do they make good pies in Romania?
Yeah, but I think it's a sign we need to get together again.
Yes, well, I can make sure that we'll have one for you when you get here to the US. Just update me so we know where you're going to be, because you got to have a pie. What's your favorite kind of pie, by the way?
Apple pie, I guess. I don't know.
Apple pie. Apple pie is a big time favorite, but I mean, there's chocolate, pecan, key lime.
Chocolate. If you have chocolate, okay.
Oh yeah, we have chocolate. We have lots of different chocolate options. Very good. Well, I'll make sure that we get one for you. It's been a weird day for me. We had Aspire. I was on a plane this morning back here. We had a big team meeting with my clinic today, but I've also been on call for the hospital today. So finished interviewing on the podcast Marianne Rambola just a few minutes ago, then now for you. And now I'm actually headed to the hospital because I've got to go take care of a hip fracture. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of Slice of Piefer. Thanks for being a part of just my life and helping me. It was such a pleasure to meet you in Las Vegas. I think this is awesome. You're changing the world. And I'm super proud of you. Just keep it up. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, please just let me know. I'll be happy to help however I can.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you very much, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Well, it is my pleasure, GeGe. You rock. I'm going to push some applause that's going to be here. You won't hear it, but I'll hear it. And then we'll see you later. You have a great one.
Okay.